I used to believe that routine was a form of safety. Wake up, kiss my wife, drink my coffee, drive to work, come home to the quiet hum of a house filled with familiar warmth. For years, that rhythm carried Elena and me through everything: birthdays, vacations, late-night conversations about our dreams. It felt unbreakable, like our life was built on steel rather than fragile hopes. But the truth is simpler and crueler. Sometimes the first sign that something is wrong is the feeling that everything is too quiet. It was a Thursday evening, nothing special. I walked in 20 minutes earlier than usual because a meeting ended ahead of schedule. I remember pushing open the front door and feeling it immediately, that heaviness, like the air inside the house had thickened. Elena was standing by the dining table, her hands pressed flat against the wood. Not moving, not crying, just frozen. "Elena?" I asked. She jerked slightly, as if someone had startled her awake. Then she turned, forcing a smile so thin it looked painful. "You're home early." Her voice cracked on the last word. One word shouldn't crack like that unless something is already broken beneath it. I set my briefcase down, watching her too closely. "Everything okay?" She nodded quickly, too quickly. "Just tired." It was a long day. A lie disguised as exhaustion. I should have taken her face in my hands. I should have asked the question she didn't want to answer. But I didn't. Instead, I let her slip away into the kitchen, walked to the living room, and told myself she'd talk when she was ready. That was my first mistake. The beginning of the unraveling. We were 5 years into our marriage when we decided to try for a baby. We thought it would be simple, two people in love building a family together. In the beginning, it was beautiful. Late-night laughter under soft lamplight. Jokes about baby names. Her hands slipping into mine each time she said, "We'll get there." But then months stretched into a year. And another. And another. Our home shifted. The walls felt tighter, the silences longer. "It's normal," Elena would say, always trying to sound optimistic. "These things take time." But the smile she used to reassure me grew thinner each month. Her eyes dimmed. Her shoulders stayed tense, like she was bracing for bad news she couldn't stop. I tried to stay strong for both of us. But each negative test felt like a private failure. A failure that lived in my bones, in my chest, in the space between us at night. By year 2, we were no longer making love. We were scheduling intimacy like an obligation. The spontaneity disappeared. The desire faded. Everything became mechanical, monitored, timed. We saw specialists, more than one. Blood work, scans, lifestyle changes, vitamins, schedules, charts, tools meant to give us control even though we had none. The doctors called it unexplained infertility, a phrase that made everything worse because it offered no villain, no solution, just a void. And within that void, our marriage began to suffocate. Around that time, Adam became a constant presence. Adam had been my best friend for almost a decade, the kind of friend who could read my mood from a single look, who knew how to make Elena laugh harder than I ever could. He stepped in when we started falling apart. He helped fix our leaky sink. He brought over homemade dinners when Elena was too exhausted to cook. He stayed late sometimes, too late, telling us stories meant to make us forget how our dream kept slipping through our fingers. I trusted him completely. He was the brother I chose. I didn't notice how comfortably he moved around our house, or how Elena's posture softened when he entered a room, or how his presence slowly filled the spaces I had abandoned without realizing it. Because I was tired, because I was angry at myself, because I needed someone to lean on, and Adam was always there. But he wasn't just there for me. The night that stays burned in my memory happened near the end of the 3rd year. I was coming down the hallway after brushing my teeth when I heard them, soft voices, just on the other side of the partially closed kitchen door. Not laughing, not joking, whispering. I froze. I couldn't hear the words clearly, only the tones, low, close, intimate in a way that didn't belong to casual friendship. Then came the silence. A silence that meant something had been exchanged. A look, a touch, a moment that didn't belong to me. When I pushed the door open, They separated instantly. Elena grabbed a mug she clearly wasn't using. Adam stepped back like he'd been burned. "Everything okay?" I asked. Elena nodded too quickly. Adam scratched the back of his neck, a gesture I recognized as guilt, though at the time, I told myself it wasn't. "Just talking," he said. "Just talking." I forced a smile, made a joke, pretended nothing felt wrong, because acknowledging it would mean acknowledging something far darker, something I wasn't ready to see. But the truth is, the distance between Elena and me didn't appear overnight. Crept in through tiny moments, missed opportunities, words left unsaid. And then, on a cold evening in late autumn, she said something that should have been a warning. We were in bed. The room was dark except for the soft glow of her bedside lamp. She was staring at the ceiling, her breathing heavy with the weight of something she wasn't saying. "Maybe we should try something new," she whispered. Her voice shook, barely but enough. "New how?" I asked. She hesitated. Too long. Then, softly, "Another clinic. Another treatment. Something different." But there was something else in her tone. A crack. A fear that didn't belong to the simple idea of switching clinics. I didn't understand it then. Didn't want to understand. I kissed her forehead and told her we'd figure it out. But the truth sat between us like a shadow. And from that night forward, it only grew darker. The new clinic Elena found was 2 hours from our town, modern, cold, expensive. Its glass walls gleamed like a promise neither of us truly believed anymore. But Elena clung to hope with both hands, and I followed because I didn't know what else to do. When a marriage starts slipping, you grab whatever rope you can, even if it cuts you. We drove there in silence on our first appointment day. The road stretched endlessly ahead of us, bleak and gray under an overcast sky. Elena sat rigid in her seat, her fingers gripping her phone as if waiting for an answer it could never give her. "You okay?" I asked. She nodded, but her jaw tightened. Another one of those micro-expressions she didn't realize she had. One of many I'd learned to interpret the way some people read weather. We arrived at the clinic just after noon. White walls, white floors, a receptionist whose smile was too practiced to feel human. Doctors who spoke in technical terms that offered no real comfort. It was sterile hope, clinical, packaged, sold. The treatment plan was aggressive. Hormones, injections, precise timing, constant monitoring. Elena absorbed every instruction with desperate focus. I nodded along, pretending I understood, pretending I believed. The truth was simpler. I was terrified of failing again, of watching her break again, of losing her completely. The months that followed were a blur of schedules and stress. Elena was a soldier, disciplined, unwavering, so determined it scared me sometimes. She set alarms, tracked cycles, packed coolers with medication for the 2-hour drives. But something else changed too. She became distant in a way I hadn't seen before. Not angry, not cold, just unreachable. Her mind was always somewhere else. Her smiles felt forced. Her touch felt distracted. It was like she had built a wall around herself. Not to keep me out, but because she couldn't afford to collapse if I got too close. I tried to be supportive. I tried to be patient. But I felt useless, like a spectator in my own marriage. That's when Adam began showing up even more. At first it made sense. He knew what we were going through. He'd been there from the beginning. He said he wanted to help. He'd drop by with groceries, fix something around the house, keep Elena company when I had long shifts or late nights at the clinic. It was innocent on the surface, but moods don't lie. Neither do glances. One evening, I came home from work and heard laughter from the kitchen. Elena's laughter, loud, real, the kind that hadn't left her lips in months. I froze in the hallway, listening. Adam was leaning against the counter, telling a story. Elena was sitting on the floor, legs crossed, surrounded by paperwork from the clinic. She was smiling in a way I hadn't seen in a long time. When I stepped in, the atmosphere shifted instantly. Elena straightened. Adam cleared his throat. The warmth evaporated. "Hey," I said lightly, pretending not to notice. "You're back early," Elena replied, echoing a phrase she'd used once before. a phrase that, by now, felt like a warning. Little things began accumulating like dust in the corners of a forgotten room. I'd find Adam's jacket draped over a chair, a mug he used left beside Elena's laptop, notes he'd written on sticky pads, reminders for errands he apparently ran for her. He texted her more often. I saw his name light up her phone screen at least twice a day. I told myself it was nothing, that this was just how Adam coped, with humor, with presence, with helpfulness. But then came the night that lingered like a bruise on my ribs. I woke up at 1:13 a.m. Elena wasn't in bed. The bathroom light was off. The living room was dark. I found her sitting on the staircase, phone pressed to her ear, whispering. Her back was to me. Her voice trembled. "I don't know how long I can keep this up," she said quietly. A pause. A shaky breath. "He's starting to notice." My heart clenched. My mouth went dry. I didn't move, didn't speak. I just listened. "I know," she whispered. "No, I haven't told him. I can't. Not yet." Then softer, almost broken. "Please, just promise me nothing will get out of control." The silence on the other end felt deafening. "Elena," I said finally, my voice weaker than I expected. She spun around, startled, eyes wide like she'd been caught in a crime scene. I couldn't sleep," she stammered, lowering the phone instantly. "It was nothing, just work, a colleague. But colleagues don't speak to each other at 1 a.m. In whispers drenched with fear. Colleagues don't discuss secrets. Colleagues don't promise nothing will get out of control." Before I could take another step, her phone lit up. A single message. From Adam. I didn't see the whole text. Only one word flashing at the top of the screen before she snatched it away. "Please." A plea. A warning. Or something else entirely. Elena stepped back, holding the phone like it was something fragile and dangerous. "Can we talk tomorrow?" she asked softly. "Please, not tonight." Her voice broke. Mine did too. I nodded because I didn't trust myself to speak. She slipped past me and went to bed, pretending nothing had happened. But something had. Something irreversible. For the first time since we'd begun trying for a child, I felt truly alone. Truly outside my own marriage. Truly afraid. And for the first time, I let a terrible thought enter my mind. One that would later destroy everything I believed. What if the person I trusted most was the one tearing my life apart? I told myself I needed proof. Something real. Something concrete. A reason to confront Elena without sounding like a paranoid husband unraveling under stress. But the truth is, the proof came looking for me long before I found it. The tension in the house became a living thing. Something that clung to the walls, pressed against my chest, and watched us from every shadow. Elena moved carefully, like every step might make something shatter. She stopped meeting my eyes. She kept her phone close, closer than she ever had before. She used to leave it on the couch, the table, the counter. Now it was always in her hand or tucked into her pocket, vibrating silently like a heartbeat she didn't want me to hear. And Adam, he became unpredictable, avoiding me some days, showing up unannounced on others. Too eager, too present. Their patterns didn't overlap enough to catch them outright, but they wove a net of suspicion tight enough to suffocate me. It all snapped on a Saturday morning. Elena was out running errands. I was home alone, cleaning the house. Something I did when I was anxious, something to keep my hands busy while my mind wouldn't stop spinning. I opened the closet in our bedroom to put away some fresh sheets. That's when I saw it. A small decorative box pushed far behind her winter sweaters. A box I didn't recognize. It wasn't the kind of thing Elena usually kept hidden. She wasn't secretive about sentimental stuff. She loved displaying old ticket stubs, handwritten notes, small reminders of memories we shared. This box felt different. I stared at it for a long moment, my heart beating too loudly in my ears. I didn't want to touch it, didn't want to see what was inside, didn't want my life to change. But my hands moved anyway. I pulled it down, sat on the edge of the bed, and opened the lid. Inside were small keepsakes, photos from years ago, postcards, trinkets, the kind of nostalgic things people forget they own. But one object didn't belong among them. A bracelet. Simple, elegant, unmistakably expensive. Attached to it was a small tag with a message written in handwriting I recognized instantly. To Elena, with all my love, Adam. My stomach twisted. The room blurred. My breath came out in fragments. I knew Adam's handwriting. He'd written me notes, birthday cards, reminders for errands. I could identify it blindfolded. And those words, with all my love, didn't belong in a box hidden out of sight. Not from a family friend. Not from a brother. Not from a man who claimed to support us. My hands trembled as I held it. Why didn't she tell me? When was this given? Why did she keep it? Why hide it? Every answer felt worse than the last. I closed the box and sat there for a long time, unable to breathe normally. My palms were sweating. My throat felt dry. And when I finally placed the box back into the closet, I did something I hadn't done in years. I cried. Quiet, bitter tears that soaked into my palms. Because deep down, I knew something I didn't want to admit. This wasn't just about infertility. This wasn't just about stress. Something had happened. Between them, behind my back. Something Elena wasn't willing to tell me. When Elena came home later that afternoon, she found me in the kitchen, sitting rigidly at the table. She paused, reading me instantly. Elijah? She asked, her voice soft, cautious. What's wrong? I didn't answer. Couldn't, not without falling apart. So I reached into my pocket, pulled out the bracelet, and placed it on the table. Elena went pale. Not shocked, not offended, just exposed. Elijah, she whispered. Why do you have this? My voice came out hoarse, low. She swallowed hard. It's old, she said quickly. Before you and I, before we were serious. It doesn't mean anything. That's not what the tag says. It was years ago, she insisted. And he took it too far. I didn't want to make things uncomfortable between all of us. I stared at her. Uncomfortable? She flinched. You hid it, I said, each word sharp as glass. You kept it. You didn't throw it away. And you never told me. Her eyes filled with tears. Elijah, please. Nothing happened. Not then. Not later. Adam had feelings for me, but I never encouraged anything. You never told me he was in love with you. Because it was nothing. She wiped at her face. I didn't want you to feel insecure for no reason. I laughed. A hollow, painful sound. Insecure? Elena, I'm not insecure. I'm not imagining things. I'm seeing what's right in front of me. She sank into the chair opposite me, shoulders trembling. I'm sorry, she whispered, but apologies don't erase lies. From that day, the distance between us became a canyon. Every look felt suspicious. Every silence felt loaded. Every moment felt like the prelude to something explosive. I needed the truth. I needed something definitive. And that's when the darkest thought I'd ever had took root inside me. If she had lied about one thing, what else had she lied about? What if everything, the timing, the new clinic, the secrecy, the whispers, was leading to a bigger lie? A lie with a name. A child. Our child. Or someone else's. The thought made me sick. Made me furious. Made me terrified. But once it appeared, I couldn't push it away. Clung to me. It grew. Consumed me. And when I finally voiced it out loud, everything shattered. All right, I said one evening, standing in the doorway of the living room. I want a paternity test. Elena froze. The color drained from her face. No, she whispered. Elijah, no. I need to know, I replied. My voice was calm. Too calm. Like it belonged to someone else. That's insane, she said, shaking her head. You're letting your paranoia. Prove me wrong then. Her breath hitched. Elijah, Jacob isn't even born yet. Then we'll do it after, I said. As soon as he is. I'm not raising a child while drowning in doubt. Her eyes filled with fear, real fear. And in that moment, I understood something I had prayed wasn't true. She wasn't scared because she felt insulted. She was scared because the truth might destroy us. Elijah, she whispered, her voice cracking. Please don't do this. I have to. She covered her face with her hands. I can explain. But explanations don't come after. Not when the truth is clean. Not when the conscience is clear. And her eyes, those eyes that once held nothing but trust, now held something else entirely. Something I could no longer ignore. Something that made my blood run cold. Guilt. That was the beginning of the end. The moment the path forward became inevitable. The moment my world began collapsing slowly, then all at once. And the moment I realized that whatever awaited me on the other side, it wouldn't be the life I thought I had. Jacob was born on a stormy night in early spring. I remember the fluorescent lights, the trembling in Elena's hands, the moment the doctor placed our son into her arms. He was tiny, warm, perfect, and despite everything twisting inside me, I loved him instantly. For a few weeks, I let myself believe the doubts were just fear mine, not hers. Adam visited often, always with gifts, always too comfortable. But I forced myself to ignore it. I wanted peace. I wanted to be a father without suspicion poisoning every breath I took. But Elena kept avoiding the conversation about the paternity test. Every time I brought it up, she paled, changed the subject, or suddenly had to feed the baby. Her avoidance became its own answer. Finally, I insisted. We're doing it, I said. No more delays. Elena didn't argue, didn't cry, just nodded with a hollow, exhausted look that made my stomach drop. The lab visit was quick, 2 swabs and silence. 48 hours later, we drove back for the results. Neither of us spoke. Jacob slept in his car seat, unaware that our family was hanging by a single piece of paper. In a small office smelling of disinfectant, the technician handed me the sealed envelope and stepped out. I opened it. Probability of paternity, 0%. My vision blurred. My heartbeat became a roar in my ears. I looked at Elena. She closed her eyes. A tear slid down her cheek. It happened once, she whispered. With Adam. I was lost. I didn't mean. Her voice cracked, but I didn't care. My world had already split in half. I walked out. She ran after me, begging, but I didn't stop. I didn't hear anything except the pounding of my own footsteps and the echo of that number, 0%. That night, I returned home only to pack Jacob's things. Elena tried to block the doorway, sobbing, saying she'd explain everything, that it wasn't how it looked. But I couldn't leave him. I couldn't walk away from the little boy who'd already become the center of my life. Even if he wasn't mine by blood. I'm taking him, I said. Elijah, please don't do this. Her hands shook as she tried to pull the bag from me, but I stepped past her and left. I drove until the highway turned into unfamiliar roads. Ended up in a worn-out motel outside a quiet town where no one asked questions. Jacob slept peacefully. I sat on the edge of the bed, shaking, replaying every moment I'd missed, every sign, every lie. My phone buzzed non-stop. Elena, Adam, unknown numbers. I ignored them. It was almost morning when I saw it. Local authorities searching for missing infant. She'd reported me. Minutes later, I heard the crunch of tires on gravel. Then voices. Then the unmistakable sound of police radios outside the door. Elijah Carter, an officer called out. Come out with your hands visible. We want this resolved safely. I froze. Jacob stirred in the crib. Then I heard her. Elena's voice through a loudspeaker, raw from crying. Elijah, please, come out. Jacob needs you. The words twisted like a knife. He needed me, yet they had driven me here. They had lied, betrayed, broken everything we built. But Jacob wasn't at fault. Slowly, I picked him up. He blinked sleepily, tiny fingers curling around mine. I love you, I whispered, and I always will. Then I opened the door. Flashing lights flooded the room. Officers shouted instructions. My knees hit the gravel as I placed Jacob gently on the ground, watching an officer lift him into safety. I didn't look at Elena as they cuffed my hands behind my back. Couldn't, because I knew that if I did, If I saw the face of the woman who had once been my whole world, it would break me more than the truth already had. As the squad car door closed behind me, one thought settled in my chest with quiet, devastating certainty. Jacob wasn't my son by blood, but he had been my son in every way that mattered. And losing him was the punishment for loving too blindly, too deeply, and too late.